All right, today we're tackling a problem that every single successful service firm hits sooner or later: growth. Yeah, the very thing you're working so hard for can actually be the thing that breaks you. So, how do you scale your business without also scaling your mistakes? Let's get into it. This is a question every leader really has to ask themselves, because while you're out there winning new clients, growing the team, these tiny, almost invisible cracks can start to form in your foundation. And those little cracks, they can threaten the whole building. So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll define something called the quality paradox. Then we'll look at the warning signs, the cracks in the foundation. And after that, we'll walk through a solid playbook for building a system that scales quality, whether your team is down the hall or across the globe. Okay, let's dive right into the core problem here. It's this strange, kind of dangerous irony that sits right at the heart of growth. We're going to call it the quality paradox. And that right there is the quality paradox. The very thing you do to handle more work, hiring more people, outsourcing, can actually water down the control that made your quality so great in the first place. You get more capacity, sure, but you risk losing the reputation that got you all those clients. So, what does this paradox actually look like in the day-to-day grind? Well, the symptoms. They're usually pretty subtle at first, but man, they can be corrosive. It often starts just like this. Work you thought was done and dusted comes back, and it's just riddled with errors. All of a sudden, your team's precious time is being spent on fixing things, not on new billable work. It's the silent killer of your capacity. And yep, all that rework, it's not just a time suck, it has a direct, painful financial cost. Every single hour spent fixing a mistake is an hour you're not billing, and it just eats away at your profitability. It makes your growth way less efficient. And this is the one that can really sink the ship. A small error here, a missed deadline there, and before you know it, clients who used to trust you completely are now double-checking everything you sent them. And once that trust is gone, it is incredibly hard to win back. And the problem just starts to fester. You see this uptick in tiny mistakes, like misclassifications. You start hearing the friction, juniors who are making the mistakes and the seniors who are just fed up with sloppy work. And this is the big one, your most valuable, experienced people, your senior reviewers, they start burning out from the sheer volume of low-quality stuff they have to fix. Okay, so that sounds pretty bad, right? A total downward spiral. But here's the good news. There is a clear antidote. And you don't fight this kind of chaos with more effort or longer hours. You fight it with better structure. I absolutely love this quote because it just hits the nail on the head. This is the mindset shift you have to make. Quality at scale can't be an accident. It's not something you just cross your fingers and hope for. It has to be designed intentionally right into your workflow. And here's what that design looks like in practice. I want you to think of it like a multi-layered sieve. At Tier 0, your team leads are using basic checklists, just making sure the work follows the standard operating procedure. Then, Tier 1 comes in for a secondary check on accuracy, on judgment calls. And finally, Tier 2 is that high-level, independent review for things like risk and compliance. See? Each layer is designed to catch what the one before it might have missed. All right, now let's take this same idea and apply it to an even bigger challenge. This whole structured approach becomes absolutely critical when you start bringing in outside help, like an offshore team or maybe a white label service. Look, the key here is you're integrating them, not just dumping work on them and hoping for the best. You got to start small with really well-defined tasks. You set up clear service level agreements or SLAs so expectations are crystal clear from day one. You use standardized templates so their work looks and feels just like yours. And maybe most important of all, you always do a final internal review. You're still the ultimate gatekeeper of quality. And you have to be absolutely ruthless about measuring performance. This isn't about feelings, it's about hard data. The source material here suggests a really clear metric, an error rate below 2%. If a partner is consistently above that number, that's a huge red flag that something in the process or the training or the scope needs to be fixed pronto. And of course, when you're talking about something like audit work, the stakes are way, way higher. A final review isn't enough. You need structured templates based on, say, US generally accepted accounting principles. You need a hard and fast rule that nothing leaves that support team without a review first. And you need to rotate those reviewers to keep a fresh set of eyes on everything. Full traceability of every single change, that becomes totally non-negotiable. So when you actually manage to pull all this off, when you get it right, something really powerful starts to happen.
Quality stops being this defensive thing you do to prevent mistakes, and it becomes a proactive weapon for building your brand. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures what it's like to compete today. Everyone is expected to deliver decent work. That's just the price of admission. The firms that really win, that pull away from the pack, they're the ones that are relentlessly, predictably, almost boringly consistent.
Because let's be real, your clients never see your review layers or your fancy error logs. They see the results. They see reports that are just clean every time. They experience a process with almost no friction, no frustrating back and forth. They see on-time delivery. And that experience is what builds a reputation for being reliable. That is your single most powerful marketing tool. Okay, so to bring this all home, let's boil everything we've talked about down into an actionable checklist. Something you can use to really pressure test your own firm's approach to growth. Think of this as your roadmap, your playbook. It's all about defining your standards and building those layers of review. It's about watching the right KPIs, your error rates, your rework percentage, and this is so crucial. It's about creating feedback loops. So when you find an error, you don't just fix the document. You go back and you fix the process that created the error in the first place. And in the end, that's really the question you have to ask yourself. Look, anyone can throw more bodies at a problem to increase capacity. But the truly great firms, they do something more profound. They build systems that scale confidence. Their clients' confidence, their team's confidence, and their own confidence to keep growing without breaking. So, what are you truly scaling?